the volume.
Today, I want to tell you about a simple way to get all the entertainment you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. And the best part? There's no annual contract. So stop waiting and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package.
Hey, do you love a good story? Great. Then you got to check out the #Storytime podcast. Each episode brings you the craziest, creepiest, and cringiest stories from YouTube, TikTok, Reddit, and beyond.
My story is about the time that I was broken up with at the 9/11 memorial. Twice.
Look, the internet is a dumpster full of stories, and I, your host, Will McFadden, dive in headfirst, sift through the flaming trash, and bring you nothing but treasures. Listen to all 21 episodes of #Storytime now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by HP Plus. In a world full of smart devices, isn't it about time your printer got smart too? Now printing is smart with HP Plus, and the HP Smart app is how it all happens. You can print from your phone with just a tap, no matter where you are, even from your garage/home office/yoga studio. Huh, that is smart. HP Plus. Learn more about smart printing at hp.com/smart.
The Colin Cowherd Podcast brought to you by FanDuel. It's never been easier to play fantasy on FanDuel. Whether you love basketball, golf, soccer, or any fantasy sport, there is a contest for every fan. FanDuel, more ways to win. All right, everybody. Clay Helton has been fired as Mike Bohn, the athletic director, acted swiftly to get Clay Helton out at USC. Dante Williams will be the interim coach. Dante's one of the younger coaches on the staff. He's the top recruiter on the USC staff and also, I believe, the top recruiter on the West Coast. Mike Bohn recruited him intensely a couple years ago at Oregon, where he was Oregon's top recruiter. He's a go-getter. He's very ambitious. He's very mature, has great relationships with the players. So he is the interim coach. The athletic director and I, Mike, have gone to dinner, have talked multiple times, had long conversations about Clay Helton, his concerns. Very short leash. When I had talked to Mike, I had voiced, concerns and asked multiple questions. And, a prime example of week one, where USC played very poorly against San Jose State. There was a reviewable play in game one against San Jose State. And USC's communication among its staff was so poor. It was a significant moment in the game. It was a reviewable play, and USC didn't review it. That sums up Clay Helton. It was a disorganized staff. It was a staff, I can remember early on, year two, having a couple of friends of mine in the recruiting business and asking them about Clay Helton, and being told by more than one source that it was a completely dysfunctional and disorganized recruiting effort. I do believe initially Clay Helton, the university with Lane Kiffin and Sark, was going through so much turmoil and chaos. I had said early with Clay Helton, there was a time and a place for Clay, a very man of faith, family, and football. That was his motto. And that was about a 2-year process. But over the course of time, it became very clear by about year 3 that players were not getting better. There's so much to recruiting beyond just a sales pitch. The difference between an Urban Meyer at the top, or a Lou Holtz, or a Barry Alvarez, or a Nick Saban, is the ability to develop players once they're in the program. I could give you so many examples. Sam Darnold regressed. Keaton Slovis, the current quarterback, is regressing. Very few players ever get better at USC, and the ones that do, and there's a handful, Drake Jackson, Drake London, Michael Pittman, they're just simply highly motivated individuals that would get better under any coaching regime. But Clay was over his head. I had a coach a couple years ago, one of USC's rivals, a very prominent national coach, and I voiced my concerns about Clay. I said, I think players don't get better. And he said, I love coaching against Clay Helton, and he is good for our business. That says it all. Clay could not put a fence around Southern California recruiting. They have done such a poor job, in my opinion, to retain top quarterback talent. I mean, Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama, all have California quarterbacks. And I understand California kids, they're smart kids. They want to see and go to the best places to develop them into first and second and third round picks. And that is not to say that every player that goes to USC regresses and it's a bad spot for all the players. But this is a unique brand. There have been more players drafted from USC today in America than any other college football program. And that includes Alabama, Ohio State, Michigan. This is just a program that has got to have higher standards than Clay Helton can elevate them to. Now, many of you are asking who's next. Dante Williams is the interim coach. Chris Peterson, I've been told, is not interested. I talked to Chris Peterson a week ago. Chris Peterson is not motivated by money or status or stature. Chris Peterson currently has an administrative job at the University of Washington. He had elevated that program quickly in Seattle and left. He's got enough money. He's about family. I don't know if he loves the current direction with name, image, and likeness. I know a lot of veteran coaches feel that it's going to ramp up cheating. You won't be able to control overzealous boosters and fans that are well-heeled. Some are very concerned about that. But back to USC's current situation, this roster has talent. They are severely lacking in offensive line talent. There are 2 or 3 elite West Coast players that Oregon is in on. I do not believe, despite what the recruiting services may, they were going to land any of these offensive linemen. They had a interesting recruiting class this year on the defensive side. A lot of that's Todd Orlando and Dante Williams. Orlando, the current defensive coordinator. He's a motivated, willful, driven, smart guy. I think he's a plus for the staff. Right now, they have got to create an energy that USC just doesn't have. They were flat against San Jose State. They were flat against Stanford. Listen, you can't wait. You can't sit around and ruin another recruiting class. This is the right move. A lot has been made when Lane Kiffin was fired on the tarmac. I didn't necessarily agree with that move, but I understood it. Clay Helton has now been there 6 years. What are you going to do? Wait for 2.5 months? 3, 4, 5 losses? Remember, there's 2 different recruiting periods now, 2 different signing periods. The best players are overwhelmingly signed in the next 8 weeks. They will be signed by December 1st. You've got to get on this. This is an incredibly invaluable recruiting class for USC because there are several really high-end offensive linemen, defensive linemen on the West Coast, and Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson. They're cherry-picking those players. Oregon from the north is cherry-picking those players. So it's the right move. There's no wrong time to make the right move. Would you be happier if it was in week 7? Clay Helton gave you a tease to this a couple of days ago after they lost to Stanford. Clay Helton had a quote, and it was very interesting, very telling. He said, "I hope we don't rush in any decisions we make. I hope we see this thing through." That was Clay Helton telling you that Mike was not happy. Mike Bohn, the athletic director, was not happy, had already talked to Clay Helton. It's just been a litany of excuses, one excuse after another. Clay is an average recruiter, does not develop players. The very best coaches he has had on his staff have left. The university now, the athletic department has sort of taken control of the hirings. That tells you everything about their concerns about Clay Helton. He was on a very short leash. I totally support this move. Peterson, I don't think will be on the list. I will say this. I had this discussion recently within 48 hours with somebody. We were discussing what to do with Clay Helton. And we both kind of came to the conclusion this may be a time, if the coach is not on the staff, and I'm not sure if that coach is on the staff, that you go to the NFL. I don't see it. as a great crop of coaching candidates at the collegiate level. If Chris Peterson isn't interested, there's no slam dunk. There's no slam dunk. Chris Peterson's your slam dunk and he's not interested. If this would have happened a year ago, I think Urban Meyer would have been in play. Urban Meyer was interested. I know that. Carol Alt, the president, was not interested in Urban Meyer. So that's the very latest. Clay Helton out. More information as I get it. The Volume Sports at Twitter, on Instagram, rate, review, subscribe. Thanks.
The Volume.
Listen, we all love ice cream, but there's ice cream and then there's Jenny's ice cream. Jenny's has unique flavors like brown butter almond brittle, a buttercream ice cream with golden pockets of caramel and crunch, and brambleberry crisp ice cream that tastes just like a fresh berry cobbler topped with vanilla ice cream. All made from scratch, no synthetic flavorings or dyes. Ice cream is great and Jenny's makes it better. Find Jenny's one-of-a-kind ice creams including gluten-free and dairy-free flavors at scoop shops and grocery stores nationwide and online at jennys.com. That's JENIS.com.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for years, he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say. Like if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
If a natural disaster comes knocking, how prepared is your family? You can't just close the door on earthquakes, floods, or hurricanes and hope they go away. That's why it's important to make a plan now. Ready.gov/plan has the tools and tips you need to prepare your family for an emergency. So if disaster shows up at your doorstep, you'll be ready. Visit ready.gov/plan and make a plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.